Tina from Shabbydabbydoodah. Welcome back to my channel. So I promised that I would come along and do a flip through of the children's book Folio. So that's what I've got here. And I also hadn't realised, but there is also this junk journal also listed on my shabbydabbydoodah.co.uk website. And yeah, I will do the flip through for this in a different video because I had already filmed this. So that will be coming. But this is the Folio. So it's bound just with this pretty yellow organza ribbon, and I just tied it in the middle to kind of like be able to double it up. So that's like that. And you get a very simple writing folio journal and the folio itself. So I'm just going to show you the writing journal. Now this is a very simple writing folio, you know, purely as the name suggests, it's for writing in. Now I've again sealed this or you know, close this up with this organza ribbon, which coordinates obviously with this. And what I've done, I've just glued it on the back of this journal and then put some lace over running through the middle, which is kind of see-through. So that's that. And then here we've got an image from the children's book. We've got some flowers and things. We've got some sari silk on the wraparound flap. We've got some coffee dyed lace, a little bow, a label, a flower, some bling, and more sari silk. And then going inside, you've just got a little kind of flippy arrangement there with some genuine vintage ephemera in there, and then a whole bunch of different papers. You've got some flowers, vintage documents, some printable there, some sari silk, a little children's book image there forming a pocket with a tag in there, and you've got a little flower. We've got some vintage book page, some of that deli paper, some more paper there, a little label, more vintage book page, coffee dyed paper, deli paper, vintage documents, lots and lots of scrummy papers. They feel and sound lovely and yummy. Some sari silk running down the page, and then various different pages again. And then this one, what I've done, you've got an altar paper clip there holding closed this, which is just a flap. You've got some vintage paper here. I'm not going to unfold it because that takes a long time for me to then fold it back in, but it's that see-through, well, it's not completely see-through, but slightly see-through kind of paper, you know, that would cover like photographs in like a wedding album and things. It's that type of stuff from a vintage book. So you've got this that opens, and then tucked in there under there you've got that, and then the paper clip itself, obviously altered paper clip, and that was just holding another sort of flippy pad that coordinates with the one at the beginning of the journal. So that just goes on, oops, on there like that. Okay, and then we've got vintage document and some food colour paper there, another image from the kids book, and then just some coffee dyed lace going down the spine. So although it's a very simple journal, it feels lovely. It's very tactile and squishy, and it's yeah, got loads of obviously journaling space, and you could just take this out independent of the folio. So you know, if you went away, you could just take this with you and jot in your notes while you're away. So the folio now is made from various different papers, and then I've got lots of lace here all over it. And then on the front cover we've got lace down here, more lace, and then we've got sari silk. We've got one of my vintage ephemera pieces from, I think it's set 4 possibly, and then lots of flowers all lined up, and then this piece from a genuine vintage book, and then some sari silk down there. So I love how that looks. Now opening up the folio, so it's a sort of trifold or triple folio like that, but on this page here, or on this, you know, inside flap, so it closes like that. So on this inside flap we've just got a large pocket here, and then on there we've got a printable here, and then a vintage book page here. Now most of these vintage book pages, when they're kind of like stuck in like this, most of them I have backed onto paper to make them much stiffer. So she is now stiffer and therefore raised, you know, she kind of like isn't flat to that journal card, which I just love that effect. Then we've got some lace, some bling, a little bow, another bow there, lots of sari silk here, and then a butterfly. And then tucked into there I've just got a printable there. That's just from my fussy cut set 2. That goes into the side. This is my yellow roses paper, and this is my tea collection papers here in the background. So they just look really lovely together. I love to mix bright coloured papers. You know, whenever you're using the kids book images, that's when I think you can be really like experimental with the papers that you're using and really mix up all your bright colours. So I've really had a lot of fun with this. Lace down the spine to just protect it, and then tucked in, there's several different bits here, journal cards, and then this here, some genuine vintage ephemera with a genuine vintage image from the book, which I just glued on. This piece of ephemera, you've got some couple of vintage stamps on there that were actually already on there. So love how that looks. And that just folds over, and then a little tag there with another vintage book image. So that all just tucks in like that. And then opening this out, so I'm going to start on this right hand side, left hand side, sorry. So what we've got, okay, we've got a big pocket here, so tucked into there I've got some vintage ephemera in the form of this huge piece of paper here, which I can't see a date on it, but anyway, it is vintage. Very crinkly, lovely sound, and you've got lots of kind of rusted bits on here where it did have a rusted paper clip. I can't remember honestly whether it had the rusted paper clip when I got it or not, but I love that. Then on here we've got a piece from the vintage book and some sari silk, and then just here a label. Now I'm just looking, she should have had something tucked in behind her, so let me just see whether I've got anything that I can pop in now. So I'm just going to, yeah, I'm just going to pop in this, maybe this, which of course is now not coffee dyed on the back. Right, so that's in there. It's not coffee dyed. Just seeing whether I've got any smaller bits. No, it's not coffee dyed, but you know, obviously you could coffee dye the back of there. I might even fold it over so it just fits in there slightly better. There we go. So yeah, that could be inked and coffee dyed, but that just tucks in there. I just didn't want it without anything. Obviously that was not a good start, was it? The very first tuck in the folio, I've forgotten to stuff. You've got a flower, some lace, sari silk, all different bits and bobs, and then tucked into here, so this is a side pocket, you've got some vintage ephemera. Again, this is some vintage document like that, and that just tucks in there like that. And then you also had, actually I wonder if that went that way around, yep. And then you also had a you know, little journal card that I made. This is just my vintage, my fussy cut sets, 3rd edition, with some book images there, and I've just coffee dyed that up. So that just tucks into that side pocket like that. Here you've got a pocket and another image from the vintage book. You've got some lace, bling, flowers, and then tucked in there you've just got a piece from my fussy cut set 2. And then I've put one of my coloured umbrellas there as if the cat's holding it. But what I did, I cut it across the top of that pocket. So you've just got part of the umbrella there and then part of the umbrella on top of the pocket. So I love how that looks. Lace down the side, and then here, just a foldy flip. So you've got journaling space and another vintage book image there. And then here, you've got another foldy flap. Here you've got a pocket and another book image, and tucked into that pocket you've just got a couple of pieces of you know, printable. This has got flowers, labels, sari silk and a bow, all sorts of different things going on there. So love how that looks. That just tucks in, oops, tucks in like that. And then open that out, again more journaling space, a little label there and a vintage book piece and a flower. This here is another piece from the vintage book. I love how that looks. And that's just sat on the vintage desk. I think it is set 3, I think. Which, how cool does that look? I mean, although they're kind of completely different styles, they've got very similar colours in the book image and the paper. So I just love that. Very feast for the eyes-ish. And then we've got a couple of little made pieces there with book images obviously on them. A butterfly, a label, little couple of banner pieces and a flower, sari silk down the edge, a flower and a bow, one of my little labels and another piece there. So lots going on that section, and some lace down the bottom. That folds over, as does that one. And then going to the middle section. So you've got a couple of pockets here, but what you've also got is you've got a massive pocket here. Again, tucked in some more vintage ephemera. I'm seeing whether there's a date on here. I can't see a date on there either, but again, it is a vintage piece of ephemera, so that just tucks in there to the side. And then don't you love the look of this one? So this is just a little flippy piece that's an envelope. Absolutely love this. It's got tons of things going on all over it. A framed piece from the vintage book. That's just using one of my frames printables. Little banner there, stapled together. You've got some flowers, and then you've got sari silk down the side, a label and a bow. So it's really, really full, but looks really gorgeous, doesn't it? So open that up, another image from the book, a butterfly and a flower and some lace trim down the side. And then here, oops, if I can get it out, we've got some more vintage ephemera. This is dated 1925, and again, I loved the fun colours on this piece of ephemera. So you've got the vintage postage stamp, and then you've got this little piece here that's glued onto the original invoice, and it just looks gorgeous. And don't the colours just pick up these little mice from the vintage book so perfectly? So yeah, I really love that. I love it when you can kind of like match in, you know, touches of vintage pieces into your whatever you're gluing on there. It makes it really, really fun, doesn't it? So that just tucks in like that. Here we've got a little flip out with journaling space here, little piece there, and another piece from the vintage book, a flower and some lace. Lace down here, protecting the spine, and then here another piece from the vintage book with, this was actually from my patisserie topper pieces, but I've just covered up the cake that was on there with this king or whatever he is. On there with a flower, a little label and some bling. And then here we've just got again another piece of vintage ephemera with another one of those bright postage stamps. That one's dated 1925. That just tucks in like that. Close that down, and then there's another pocket here with, again, this is just some vintage writing paper. It was from like a vintage notebook. It had this stuff in. Can anyone tell me, is this shorthand? I don't know. Is that shorthand? I mean, to me, that looks more longhand to write than actual words, but I have looked at shorthand books before, and that's a bit kind of how they look. So, I mean, shorthand, I think, is kind of a dying art, really, but it's a shame because, my goodness, wasn't that just a skill and a half? I mean, very, very skilled, you know, whoever could write in shorthand. Let me know, is that shorthand? I don't know. But this is just literally a couple of pages, and they've just been stapled in the middle to form a little booklet. Piece from the book, a vintage postage stamp and a couple of stamped images on there. A little bit of netting there from one of my daughter's old skirts, but it looks so cute, doesn't it? Love that. So that's in there. And then here, going on to this side, we've got quite a few flips and flaps going on here. So I'm going to just take you through them. So on the first flap, it's an envelope. We've got here a couple of pockets here, which actually another one here without something. So let me just see. Got a little, here we go. I've got a little flippy that I can tuck in there. Now, in an ideal world, I would have that. Yeah, that just about fits. So put that in there now. This little flip down from some vintage book page. As you can see, it's quite stained and marked. That was how it was, obviously, when it came from the vintage piece. You've got some vintage book page there with that chicken or hen, and then some flowers, and then a label, a butterfly, some bling, lace down there and lace up the top. And then in the side here, so you've got that pocket, then you've got this pocket, you've got some vintage printable, just goes in there. And then here on the side, it's also again another pocket, so you've got here some vintage page. That's dated 1897, so a nice old piece there. That just goes in like that, and then open that out. You've got journaling space here. This is all vintage fly sheet as well, the journaling paper. I think most of it is, if not all of it. You've got a flower here, you've got some lace up the top with some flowers and butterflies there. So I love, love, love how that looks. Then here you've got a little pocket, and on top of the pocket, you've got another book image. Don't you love this little boy? Don't know whether he's like a court jester or, I don't know. It might have been, oh, I think it was Little Jack Horner, because this was a nursery rhyme book, because I'm just looking at his thumb. He's got a plum on his thumb. So yeah, little Jack Horner, isn't it? Stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plum. So that was him. But yeah, very cute. I don't know why he's wearing that hat. Maybe Jack Horner was a court jester, I don't know. But in there, I've just got one of my stamped pieces there. Did these a really long time ago. Absolutely loved them. And it's got some embossing around the edge, which makes it a bit shiny. So I love how that looks. That just tucks in there. And then opening this flap up, just going to move it across a bit. We've got this envelope, again with another vintage piece from the book page, and then some sari silk running down the side, a label, a bow, more lace, and then tucked into the envelope, we've got here some vintage document again. That just tucks in there, like that. And then here on this section, we've got a big pocket here, again with some vintage document. This is dated 1932, so that's that one. That just tucks in there. And then here we've got another foldy flap. So here another book image and a label and things. That's, oh, another pocket, look, that I've left bare. So, oh gosh, let me just see whether I've got anything else. Looking for something quite small to put in there. Oh, what's the likelihood? Well, I'm going to put this in now. Just want to say it has got stuff on the back of this. Oh, do you know, I'm going to put this in. Again, it has got stuff on the back. I'm not sure whether that's perfect actually in there. I'm going to put this in, right, plain on the back, but equally not coffee dyed. So put that in there instead. Just so long as we've got something in those pockets, I think. Oh, and do you know what? I've just pulled out some of my large images in the form of these shoes. So I'm just going to pop a little boot in there as well, just because I think, well, the boot, it's very fun. It's similar colours to all of this, and it just goes, again, this has not been coffee dyed, but you could, of course, coffee dye the back of that. It just tucks in like that. Okay, opening this, you've got journaling space here, and then you've got two pockets here. So in this pocket, you've got, again, a lovely book image, butterfly, lace, gem, and some sari silk running across the bottom, and then tucked into there, a little foldy out booklet. So this is from my Yellow Roses collection papers, and it's been backed onto book page to thicken it up. Little book image there, and then just a couple of pages, so it's quite tiny. Oh, this had some image. This was a vintage page from a book with an image of a boat, so you have got some of that in there, but again, that's fine. So that's cute. And then here we've got another one of these. These are my Paris note cards, and then we've just got a label on there and a flower, so that tucks in there. And then tucked in here, we've just got a tag. I love the simplicity of this tag. This is just from my Totally Dotty papers. A book image there from the vintage book, and then just a number tab, but simple but works, doesn't it? So yeah, really, really love that. And that just tucks in at the top. So that's everything. It's quite a full-on folio, but you do have the bonus also of that. Sorry, just need to concentrate when I fold this and stop chatting, otherwise I can't remember how to fold it in. Right, so obviously it is kind of important to fold it in the right way, because otherwise it might not sit properly. So this was obviously the cover. It doesn't want to close. So if you tried to close it, you know, you might just damage it slightly. So just take care when you do close it like that and like that. And then it closes in its natural kind of way. You know, it wants to close like that. And then the writing journal, obviously giving you that extra journaling space. So yeah, really, really cute little folio. And like I say, I don't think I've ever actually done a folio using book images. I did make a folio once using whole page from book images, but I haven't ever done one quite like this. So very, very different for me, but I really loved doing it. I loved being able to use all those bright colours. So yeah, that one is in my shop on my website, like I say, as is the journal, which the flip through will come, but that's obviously on there now. And so are quite a few things from Friday's haul video, not haul, you know, restock video that I did. So yeah, if you wanted to kind of check anything out, then please do. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think to the folio. Obviously I haven't done the flip through of this yet, but yeah, let me know what you think to the folio. Do you love the kids images? Do you like working with them? You know, or maybe you haven't, you know, but share below what you think. So thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate a big thumbs up to this video. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate you subscribing to my channel as well. So thanks so much, everybody, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks then. Bye.